Breaking tonight, Britain has been thrown into a full-scale constitutional storm after something no one expected unfolded live, on camera, and in front of global media. Keir Starmer, during what was supposed to be a routine leadership address, delivered a line so explosive, so politically reckless, that it triggered the most dramatic royal reaction in over a generation. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. What you're about to see could rewrite the future of the British monarchy. It began quietly. Prince William, there as a symbolic guest representing continuity and national unity, sat poised near the front, listening with the disciplined calm expected from a future king. But that calm didn't last. Because minutes into the speech, Starmer pivoted into territory no Prime Minister has dared touch in decades. He criticised the monarchy as an outdated institution restraining Britain's progress. He spoke of ending the era of inherited influence. He vowed to finally redraw the balance of power. The words hung in the air, heavy, deliberate, unmistakably hostile. The room froze. Cabinet ministers exchanged horrified glances. Foreign diplomats blinked in disbelief. Reporters stiffened in their seats, and Prince William, he slowly stood up, and no hesitation, no attempt to hide his fury. A tight jaw, a fixed stare, and a controlled but unmistakable exit. The future King of the United Kingdom walked out live, unscripted, and witnessed instantly across social media as clips exploded worldwide. Within minutes, he walked out was trending. By the time Starmer finished his speech, Downing Street aides were already on phones, scrambling, panicked, demanding clarity from Kensington Palace. They didn't know yet that the walkout was only the beginning. Because what happened next sent shockwaves through Britain's political system. An urgent message from Buckingham Palace summoning senior courtiers, private secretaries, constitutional advisors and communications chiefs. The King wanted answers. The King wanted briefing papers. The King wanted everyone in the room. A royal emergency meeting had officially been called, and Starmer had no idea that his remarks had just detonated the biggest political royal rupture in modern British history. What happened behind palace walls after William's walkout makes the public drama look tame. Because within 40 minutes of Starmer's speech, Buckingham Palace activated something insiders describe as the Red File Protocol, a rarely used internal mechanism reserved only for moments of national constitutional danger. Phones lit up everywhere. Senior private secretaries were recalled from travel. Advisors were ordered into briefing rooms. And at the centre of it all was King Charles himself, demanding full transcripts, legal evaluations, precedent notes, and emergency communications guidance. According to multiple insiders, the King's first reaction was a mixture of disbelief and controlled fury. "This cannot stand," he reportedly said, his voice firm, clipped and uncharacteristically sharp. But the real shock came when he read the transcript of Starmer's remarks in full. The Prime Minister hadn't misspoken. He hadn't gone off script. He had deliberately challenged the constitutional role of the monarchy, and he did it while the heir to the throne sat just metres away. That turned a political insult into something far more serious, a constitutional provocation. By early evening, palace legal teams were already drafting scenario plans, internal documents labelled high impact, unprecedented, and risk of escalation. Some advisers argued that responding would drag the monarchy into the political trenches. Others insisted that silence would be interpreted as surrender. Meanwhile, Downing Street was in meltdown. Starmer's staff reportedly realised too late that their leader had crossed a line the government was never meant to approach. Ministers were begging the PM's office to issue clarifications or walk back parts of the speech. One senior official described the atmosphere as electrical. Like everyone knew something enormous had just gone wrong. Inside Parliament, MPs across both parties were whispering the same thing. Did the Prime Minister just provoke the Crown? And then the news broke, leaked within the hour, that Prince William's walkout was intentional, not spontaneous, that it was a constitutional signal, that he acted after a private consultation with the King. Suddenly, Starmer's words didn't look like bold reform anymore. They looked like a challenge to the monarchy itself. The pressure was now suffocating. Commentators were calling it the most serious Palace-Downing Street rift since the abdication. International media flooded London. Commonwealth governments demanded updates. And the British public, they were split down the middle, furious, confused, electrified. But none of them knew what the king was preparing to do next. Because in a locked room inside Buckingham Palace, with only his most trusted advisers present, Charles made a decision that would send the crisis into an entirely new dimension. And this time, the shy world wouldn't have to wait for leaks. He would speak publicly, live, direct, and without political filters. By the time the palace confirmed the king would speak live, not in a statement, not through aides, but on camera, Britain entered a level of tension the country hasn't felt since the 1936 abdication crisis. Journalists swarmed Westminster, MPs abandoned committee rooms, broadcasters cancelled programming in real time. Something historic was about to happen, and everyone knew it. At 6:32 p.m, every major UK network cut to a single feed. King Charles stood alone in the Balmoral drawing room. No flags, no advisers, no rehearsed pageantry. Just the monarch, stone-faced, staring directly into the nation. And the first sentence told the country everything. When the constitutional balance is threatened, silence becomes abdication of duty. The room behind him was silent. Britain wasn't. Phones lit up. Newsrooms exploded. Social media went seismic. For the first time in living memory, a reigning monarch had implicitly rebuked a sitting Prime Minister on live national television. Charles continued, his voice steady but unmistakably clipped with anger. The Crown does not seek power, nor political influence, but neither will we stand idle while stability itself is undermined. He didn't mention Starmer by name. He didn't need to. Everyone understood exactly who he was talking about. Inside Downing Street, panic erupted. Aides scrambled to draft responses. Ministers were reportedly shouting at each other in hallways. One senior official described the mood as detonated, completely detonated. Meanwhile, inside Parliament, MPs began whispering an unthinkable phrase. Has the king just declared a constitutional breach? Because the message behind the speech was crystal clear. Prince William's walkout wasn't a rogue act. It wasn't symbolic. It wasn't emotional. It was coordinated. It was planned. And it was a warning shot from the monarchy itself. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Within 20 minutes, 4 government advisers resigned, 2 cabinet ministers reportedly threatened to quit, and leaked messages from inside Labour HQ said the PM's team were melting down, unsure whether Charles's intervention was merely symbolic or the opening move in something much bigger. Palace insiders say the king rewrote his speech 7 times, stripping out diplomacy and replacing it with the bluntest constitutional language used by a monarch in nearly a century. Royal advisers begged him to soften it. Some warned the speech would ignite a political firestorm that cannot be extinguished. Charles refused. This is not about politics, he told aides privately. This is about Britain. And while the nation remained frozen in shock, the real escalation was happening quietly, out of view, because just minutes after the broadcast ended, a courier left Balmoral carrying a sealed packet for the Cabinet Office. A packet, insiders say, contained a document no monarch has sent in over 70 years. A formal constitutional warning. A move so rare that most modern governments have never even seen one. And it was addressed directly to the Prime Minister. Britain had just stepped into uncharted territory, and the next 24 hours would determine whether this was a royal confrontation or the beginning of a full constitutional showdown. Britain woke up the next morning to a political landscape that looked unrecognisable. King Charles's live intervention hadn't just shaken the system, it had cracked it open. And within hours, the entire country was spiralling into a full-scale national confrontation between the government and the Crown. At 7:02 a.m, YouGov released an emergency overnight poll that detonated across every newsroom. A staggering 81% of respondents supported the King's decision to speak out. Even more explosive, 59% believed the Prime Minister had endangered constitutional stability. It was the first time in decades that public trust in the monarchy surged, while trust in a sitting PM collapsed in a single day. Radio stations went wild. LBC had callers sobbing, furious, shouting. One pensioner said, "The King said what we're all thinking. They've pushed too far." BBC presenters abandoned planned segments to cover the fallout. Good Morning Britain opened with the headline, "A constitutional standoff. Can Britain survive this?" But the real shockwave came from Westminster. MPs from every major party broke ranks. Some demanded an emergency session of Parliament. Others questioned whether the Prime Minister still held the moral authority to govern. The loudest whispers, whispered only in closed rooms, were the most dangerous. Is this the beginning of a leadership challenge? Senior Tories, terrified of the monarchy turning against them, told journalists privately that the PM had crossed a line no British leader ever should. Meanwhile, Labour veterans warned that Starmer's handling of the standoff could shatter the party for a generation. Outside Parliament, protests erupted by lunchtime. Thousands marched, chanting, "Protect the Crown." Others held signs demanding the monarchy stay out of politics. Police formed barriers as tension built between clashing crowds. Royalists on one side, Republican activists on the other, both furious, both convinced the other threatens the future of the nation. International reaction was immediate and brutal. Sky Australia declared, "The UK faces its most destabilising crisis since Brexit." CNN ran, "A monarch intervenes, historic shift in British politics." And French media, with their usual smugness, labelled the situation La crise royale moderne. But behind palace walls, something even more unsettling was unfolding. Insiders say the King's broadcast had triggered a constitutional red alert. Courtiers worked through the night analysing potential outcomes. Snap elections, parliamentary gridlock, legal challenges, even scenarios involving the Privy Council. Meanwhile, the PM's office was in absolute chaos. Aides were leaking, advisors were clashing. One senior Downing Street source told reporters, "If the King escalates again, it's over, completely over. The government collapses." Social media added fuel to the blaze. Millions of posts, thousands of debates, influencers, celebrities, even former diplomats weighing in. But the most chilling detail came just after 4 p.m. when a Westminster insider leaked the PM's private notes from the night before, notes suggesting he was considering pressuring William to suspend royal duties indefinitely. The leak hit like a grenade. Commentators called it astonishing, reckless, and borderline unconstitutional. Royal insiders were livid. One senior courtier reportedly said, "If he tries that, the Crown will not stay silent." Britain had officially entered territory no one alive has ever seen. The country was now waiting for one thing: the next move. Because the King had spoken. The people had chosen sides, and the Prime Minister was cornered. What happens next decides whether this becomes a political firestorm or a historic constitutional collapse. By the time this showdown hit its final stretch, the energy in Parliament wasn't just tense, it was radioactive. Every pair of eyes was locked onto the floor, waiting for the next political explosion. And trust me, it came fast. Keir Starmer, already on shaky footing after being confronted earlier, pushed one step too far. His refusal to comply, the back and forth arguments, and the rising noise inside the chamber made one thing painfully clear. This wasn't politics anymore. This was a full-blown meltdown. Nigel Farage, never the type to back down, seized the moment. He slammed the final point, exposing what he called the truth they've been hiding. And the chamber went from murmurs to chaos. In 2 seconds flat, members shouting, papers flying, and the Speaker forced to make a decision nobody expected today. Starmer was ordered out, and for the first time in his political life, he couldn't talk his way out of it. Security escorted him from the chamber as Farage watched with that chilling, almost triumphant silence. The entire room froze. You could practically hear hearts pounding. Minutes later, the Speaker delivered the official line: Starmer removed, debate suspended, Parliament shaken to its core. Whether you love him or hate him, one thing is now carved in history. This wasn't just another argument. This was the moment everything changed. A political earthquake that'll be replayed, debated and weaponised for years. If you want to see every twist, leak and shocking revelation as Britain's monarchy teeters on the edge, hit subscribe now. Turn on notifications, because in the next 48 hours this story will evolve faster than ever and you won't want to miss a single royal bombshell. Comment below. Do you think King Charles will act? Or is this crisis just beginning? Share this video to let others witness the most explosive royal showdown in decades.